All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. As we're getting started, I know there's going to be some more people coming in, which is totally fine. I hope you are loving the conference so far. I know the pieces I've gotten to experience, I've really enjoyed. So my name is Emily Karst. I am also known as Joyful Noise Teaching on Instagram and TikTok. So you may have seen my face on social media. I'm so lucky to be able to talk to about 300,000 teachers between my TikTok and Instagram platform there. And I mostly talk about kind of a mix of teacher well-being and also like tech tools. So I kind of started out talking about Google Slides and virtual education. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me just so you know who's going to talk to you for the next hour. And also all along the way, like, please feel free to ask any questions. I hope this feels conversational in nature and, not just sit and get, although we're kind of in that situation. Anyway, so my oldest daughter, Lucy, who's now 3, she had some medical complications at birth, and I ended up sitting in the NICU for a long time. I don't know if any of you can relate with that. And as I was sitting there, it was also COVID. And so I started my TikTok and my Instagram in the hospital and just deep, like, dove into the world of education technology and, like, at that time, how to continue to teach without feeling like we were losing our minds while we were in the pandemic. And so a lot of my early content when I first was talking to teachers and kind of building my platform was all about like Google Slides and like tips and tricks for that. And so you're going to see a little bit of that kind of thing sprinkled through my presentation. I'm hoping during this hour to really just give you the very best of the best that I have learned in the last 3 years of just having a large community of teachers that have shared things with me and I have shared things with them, what has resonated and what has helped move the needle as far as teacher well-being. Because I know that I am like absolutely preaching to the choir about teaching being a really, really hard profession, more than most people understand. And you don't know unless you're doing it. And that's why I feel so lucky to be an assistant principal in an elementary in Ohio, where I get to have my boots on the ground. And my entire job, as I see it, is removing barriers for teachers and kids so that they can learn and love their job. But one thing that kind of keeps me up at night in my current role is that this is just not sustainable. The pace that we as educators are being asked to move in and live in. And so work-life balance can feel like a joke because it's like, how would I ever accomplish a work-life balance? So the reason that I am so passionate about technology and education, and more recently about AI in education, is because, in my opinion, this is the first thing that I've ever encountered that has that practical availability to truly transform and change our work-life balance as teachers. Because what do we need when we say we need work-life balance? We need less work. And nothing's going to do that for us except for AI can actually do that for us. And I think there's some best practices about how to use it. I think that hopefully in this room, there's a large range of people that are like huge adopters and you're so excited about it. And also people that are kind of getting their feet wet. And then maybe also people that are like, is this going to change education as we know it? And is this a good or bad thing? And hopefully all of us are here together just learning that. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So let me pause for just 1 second and see, does anyone have any opening questions or anything you'd like to know about me or my background or anything before I jump into the presentation? Okay. Well, if at any point you do, please do not hesitate. Like I said, I hope this can feel conversational because I'm sure you have just been learning a lot and you might have some questions that come up as we go. So let me share my screen. I'm going to share my desktop, which is going to be kind of weird for a second because you'll see yourself reflected back, but this will help me kind of like show you the whole picture. Okay, so can somebody give me a thumbs up that you can see this front page of this presentation? All right, cool. Thank you guys. All right, so what we're talking about today is AI tips and tricks for teachers, but really we're going to get into the whole shebang of teacher well-being and tips and tricks and things you'd find along the way. I think this is going to feel a little bit like if you were to follow me on social media and you were to hear all of the best things that I have come across. Before I get started though, I want to talk a little bit like as an introduction into AI. Now, probably you've heard a lot of this by now, but I always just think it's best practice to start with this kind of conversation because even though a lot of us are probably early adopters to AI in education, it is early in having AI in the world at large, much less the world of education. And I think we all have more pressure on our shoulders as teachers because we have to know, how do we utilize this in the classroom? And will we be able to stand behind that in 3 years and in 5 years? Will we still feel good about it? So here are just a couple of guiding thoughts to keep front of mind as we're continuing to have these conversations. First of all, we have to understand what AI is. Machine learning, just so we know, I'm sure we all know this, is present in many different parts of our daily lives already. AI is all around us anyway. It's not as if the kids are only going to experience it in the confines of school or from their teacher. Just as an example, my husband and I went to McDonald's the other day, which I am ashamed to admit we were buying Happy Meals for our kids. Bad parent moment. But we went to McDonald's and the entire experience was automated. The menu was an automated voice. They read our message back to us. We got up, we paid in the app, then we got to the window and the food was out and we never encountered a human. And a lot of that was AI, and it's just in our world already. Also, teachers have been incorporating AI through adaptive assessments and intelligent tutoring for years and years. If you use anything that's like Alexia or a Dreambox, or even like assessments like STAR, they're going to, or the ACT even, you're going to continue to get questions that are harder and harder and harder until you can't keep up with them anymore. That's existed since I was in high school, and it's gotten better and better and better, but that predictive AI has been a part of our life already. If this is something you want to dive more into, I'd encourage you to check out the 5 big ideas in artificial intelligence. I have it linked in my slides here, and I won't go into it now because I know we have limited time and I want to get to the meat of everything. But this is just a good kind of guideline to keep in mind. So when you're thinking about using AI, we would never as teachers want to just make AI teach the curriculum or write the curriculum all the time. We want to infuse AI into our best practices, because the idea is, let's take this job that's less sustainable than it should be, and let's utilize AI to make it more sustainable. Let's pull it in as an assistant, as an administrative assistant to you. Is one of the best ways to use it if you're new to it. So as an assistant principal, for example, we have a school secretary and a scheduling secretary. And our scheduling secretary and school secretary take so much of that clerical work off of my plate so that I can focus on instructional leadership. And so that I can be doing that value added work where I can be with kids, I can be in classrooms. And if I was spending too much time doing that clerical work or doing the attendance work or the other pieces that are absolutely essential to run a school, then I wouldn't really be able to be with the kids doing that valuable work that I'm paid to do. And the same is true for teachers. Really, it would be a dream world that we wish we lived in, that every single teacher was able to have an assistant that did some of that clerical stuff for them, answering parent emails and writing out newsletters and all of these pieces that take a lot of busy work out of our schedules, that overwhelm us, that make us work from home. AI is an answer for that. So that's one way you can infuse it. Also, it's good for kids, as we're continuing to teach kids how to interact with AI, to apply AI to daily life scenarios, like I just did when I was talking about McDonald's, to continue to help them ground it, that this is a part of your world. And we're going to teach you how to interact with the AI that is a part of your world, and try to keep it integrated, just like we do with all other areas of education, to whole child learning. All right. Some other things to consider. These are just some best practices, things to check off. When you're using AI, always check for bias and accuracy. It could be so wrong. And when AI is wrong, it's confidently wrong. So AI might occasionally produce biased or incorrect content. So always double check before sharing with students. Let me go back to that example about a secretary. My lovely secretary, who I adore, she will sometimes write out an email response for me. But when she does, and she sends it to me to look at, I always read it over, because it is coming from me. Or like, for example, think of like the big time CEOs, the emails that are coming out from them, they're not being written by those CEOs. They're being written by their administrative assistants. But a good CEO would always at least double check and read before sharing. So that's just a mindset to have. Then the 80-20 approach. AI can be used for initial groundwork, a jumping off point, but always make sure to add your professional final touch at the end. Review for bias and accuracy, and contextualize for the last 20%. So just as an example, if AI were writing I don't know, a newsletter for you, like a newsletter blurb at the beginning. That wrote that for you. That's 80% of the work. You go back in, add your voice, check for bias, contextualize it for your kids, add some personal examples. That last 20%, then send it out. Now, maybe that took you 10 minutes instead of 30. And that over time adds up to really moving the needle on well-being. Your judgment matters. Always see AI generated content as a starting point and not a final solution. Always adhere to your school's guidelines. Now that I say that, I know a lot of you might be like, there are no guidelines, or maybe you're in the midst of writing the guidelines. That's completely understandable, but it's always a good idea as a teacher to just check in with whoever it is that writes those policies, and if you're worried about it. And then know your limits. So some AI, not all, but a lot of the AI that we interact with, its knowledge stops around 2021 or 2022. Just be aware of that when you're dealing with really recent topics. Not all, but some. And then protect privacy. Now, there's been a lot of sessions in this conference about student privacy details and that kind of thing. It's something that I'm still learning a lot about. Something that I have done is I've created a separate Gmail account that I use for signing up for these kinds of services, that's just separate from any of my other Gmail accounts. And so that's what I'm utilizing right now. But I would encourage you, if you haven't yet gone to a session about privacy and learning how that impacts AI use, that might be a great use of your time. All right, so enough of that kind of thing. Now we're going to move on and go back. Let me see if I can. Hold on one second. And talk about the fun stuff, okay? Let's start with AI tools. So first of all, this QR code right here, I hope is helpful because this is my AI teacher guide. Let me show you a little peek of it. So this is what it looks like. This is something that I've shared with my social media followers for a long time now, mostly because when teachers are encountering this stuff, I think it feels a lot more intimidating than it really is. And so having it all in one place is helpful. So if you want this, you can scan that QR code and it will take you to this guide that lists a whole bunch of my favorite tools for different things. So that's what is linked right there. Let's go back there. If you would like to scan that QR code, go ahead and do that now. And then at the end, if you would like, please let me know in the chat and I can go back to this and just kind of keep it up on the screen for a few minutes so that everybody gets a chance to scan that. Okay, now, without further ado, let's talk about some of the AI tools that I absolutely love as an introduction to changing teacher well-being. All right, here's the first one. First one is called EduAid. There's another one I'm not going to get into, but I did list that I love called Magic School. They're very similar. This is what it is. It's essentially using a chatbot like a ChatGPT and creating like recipes for how to use, like using that kind of software in a teacher context. So here's the generator. You can do all sorts of things with it. Here's the planning stuff that you can do. You can do a lesson seed, a unit plan. You can do prior knowledge, engagement activities, all right here. So all you would do is put your topic in right there, and then you would allow AI to work on it. And then it would just create resources for you and all sorts of stuff. It's amazing. And then you can also filter by subject and by grade level. Hopefully this is not something that's brand new to you, but if it is, this is something that I think you'd have a lot of fun checking out because as you can see, there are tons and tons and tons of options. So like just as a good example, my kids, when I used to teach music before I was principal, loved this or that as like a grounding, or like if you do a morning meeting, this or that's are great. So like you could click on this and then you could add like, make a this or that that's themed for spring or something, and then change these grades, click enhance, and then over here, it's going to give you that this or that activity. So this is very similar, like I said, to Magic School. It's a bunch of fun recipes for creating this kind of content. Question, well, I have a video on TikTok that has over 1 million views about this because people just about lost their mind over question well. So hopefully this isn't new to you, but in case it is, I do want you to see. So get 10 multiple choice things. Questions based on what? I'm going to put birds. And then you could put learning outcomes and standards or not. I'm just going to put birds, not the grade. Then down here, I'm going to put a first grade reading level and in English. And then I want to generate test questions. So generate the questions. This will take just a second to do. But then once the question list is generated, what's so cool is that you can export this list of questions. This is the most important part. This list of 10 questions, you can export directly into Kahoot, Gimkit, Blookit, Quizzes, Quizlet, all of those like gamified systems that your kids absolutely love. Here it is. you can export these questions straight into it. And so this is where I want to pause and connect back to what I said earlier around well-being and about kind of delegating out some of that work. This is a great way to get some time back, because instead of sitting with a Kahoot and either scrolling through the Kahoot library, looking for something that matches what you're teaching, you can have AI do the 80%, and then you come in and you just read, all right, am I teaching my kids this, or do I want to change a couple of things because that's not exactly how I taught it to them, or is there something more relevant? So you change all this, there's the correct things. And then when you're happy with what it says, then you click export, and then you can click any of these options to download this into, and your kids can play it. So depending on how nitty gritty you want to get with this, to be totally honest, you could take something your kids are learning in the classroom and turn it into a look it game in 5 minutes. That's a huge deal, because in the past, I know when I was first playing Look It in my music classroom and I was creating something around like instruments in the orchestra, I used to have to spend an hour plugging this stuff into the system, and I would be like, it's worth it, I'll use it a million times. I wouldn't have to under these contexts, and it gets you that time back so you can do what matters and you're not working at home, hopefully. All right, next tool I want to talk about is called Goblin tools. So executive functioning in kids is something that, especially at the elementary school, well, I don't know if it's especially, I've never taught high school or middle school. Maybe some of you high school and middle school teachers are like, yeah, we have that too. I'm sure you do. And honestly, as teachers, executive functioning is a lot of what I'm talking about, because it's like task initiation. It's overwhelm at large tasks. So I mean, as an example, if you have a really difficult parent email to get back to, like you might have to stop first and dissect the email. You have to read every part, then you just decide how you want to respond. And that can feel so daunting that it sits in your inbox for a long time, because your executive functioning is struggling to want to interact with it. Whereas students have the exact same issue. So if you were to say to the kids, okay, here's the assignment right here where my cursor is. Create a 10-slide Google slide presentation about bald eagles. For some kids, that's gonna be like, okay, I'm going. For some kids, that's gonna sound really overwhelming. Well, how am I supposed to do that? We know how much kids benefit from a visual checklist next to them that they check. And the more granular, the better. So this does it for you. So you type that in, what your assignment is, and then you could change these little chili peppers right here to say just how spicy the task is. So if you think that it's a really difficult task, you would put more. And if you think it's a pretty simple task, they shouldn't have an issue with this, you can put less. Basically, that defines how granular they get in breaking down the steps of the task. So look how granular this gets though, because I put 3 little chili peppers there. Step 1, open Google Slides. Step 2, create a new presentation. Step 3, set the number of slides to 10. So granular, right? But then down here, this one I thought could have gotten more granular. Add content to each slide about bald eagles. Well, what's that supposed to look like? Here's what you can do. You go next to it, and then you can click this little magic, break down the item. That's what I did here. And it breaks that down further. So, I mean, you can use this for yourself in your own life, or you can use it for kids. It's a way that you can differentiate your instruction in the classroom without losing your mind, because it's something that AI can automate for you, rather than you having to create a visual checklist for every single student that struggles with task initiation. So this is what I mean by it can be helpful to enhance our best practices instead of shortcutting our best practices. Okay, next one. This is a paid one. I do want to mention that first, because generally I don't share paid tools, because like we don't get paid enough. We certainly should not be shelling out for anything, and you shouldn't. But if your district would be interested in helping you with this, Hello History is really very, very cool. So it is basically a platform where kids can chat with someone from the past. So as you can see, the options are really pretty limitless, and it really acts a little bit like a conversation platform. And as you can see right here, it looks like a typical kind of, I don't know, messaging platform that the kids would be used to using. So it's very accessible for kids. And depending on the age of kids you teach, or the classroom or whatever that you teach, you may or may not be truly comfortable putting this kind of like conversational generative AI into the kids' hands. And I understand that, because like I said, I'm a principal for elementary age kids. So at this age, I would be hesitant to put something like this in front of them and just say, go. So what I would do instead, I'm just going to give you a practical example, is I would say, okay, let's say we're learning about Abraham Lincoln. So I would do the whole lesson about Abraham Lincoln. We'd learn all about him. And that might use some of these other tools that I'm showing you now. And then once we've learned everything, maybe a closing thing for that. And maybe it could link in a standard around like how to interview or something like that. I would ask the kids, write some interview questions that you would like to ask Mr. Lincoln if you were here today, and then have them submit them. And then I, as the teacher, would pull something like this up on a smartboard, an Apple TV, whatever it is that you have. And I would type in the student questions that had been vetted and then use that generative AI so that the kids could see what they said. I'm thinking of some of our like third and fourth grade kiddos would just about lose their mind for something like this. It's a really great way to make history come alive for kids. Another one I want to show you is this one. This is, and I want to expand this for just a second so I can see your faces. Can you see this screen? Because I know I changed off of Google. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. Great, thank you. So this is Gamma. Gamma is, to me, my favorite slides generator tool, although there are many that have like really great ones. So Canva has a really good one. I'm trying to think of another slides generator. Tome, I think it's called, has a really good one. There are quite a few that I've shared on my social media channels. If you'd like to go back and binge any of that stuff, it's basically just 60 seconds after 60 seconds of me showing you tools like this. But one of them is Gamma, and I just think it's amazing. So I want you to see it in action. So you can create it with AI. There's a lot of different things that you can do here, and really all of them are very cool. But let's tap on this generate one. We're going to generate a presentation. So we'd like to make a presentation. We'll stick with our birds theme about bald eagles and their habitat. Okay, so then it's going to generate an outline for us. So then you as the teacher, check out the outline. Are you happy with this outline? Do you want to change anything about it? So that's pretty easy. You can add a card, and a card is a slide, essentially. And you can change card, whatever you want to do. Once you've got these all looking like this, I want you to watch how amazing this is. It's really cool. Depending on the age of kids that you're showing this to, you can change the amount of text to brief or detailed, and then you can change where you want the images to come from and the image license. So it really is so cool. All right, so let's click continue. I've seen this a million times and I still get jazzed about it because I still just think we're living in the future. How cool is that? So then you're going to pick the theme over here. So whatever it is you think is pretty, we'll go with this one. And then tap generate. So it shows you a little theme preview over here, what that's going to look like. Tap generate. And then it's going to start generating a presentation for you. And then there's a presentation or present button at the top, and you can present it like boom, right away. Hoping you can all see this okay. Okay, so as it's generating, you can see on the left-hand side, it's generating these slides. And here's what it's coming up with. So going back to that conversation we were having earlier about let AI do the 80%. You come in, you look at it, and you add your professional 20%. It's pretty incredible. You can add more, you can change the images, you can edit absolutely anything about this. To me, Gamma is like the best of the best in terms of that kind of generation. All right, so let's go back here. I think I've showed you everything I wanted to show you about top extensions. Let me open up your faces for a second. Let me pause. Does anyone want to ask any questions so far? Because I know I've been talking to you a lot. I see that somebody raised their hand. Feel free to unmute and ask a question if you'd like.
Hi, thanks for sharing this. Super exciting. I was just curious to see, how do you go about fact checking the initial starting point that may be already populated on the slides, for instance, to avoid any sort of hallucination that the AI may be giving you?
Yep, absolutely. So generally, I mean, it depends on the grade that you're doing, right? Like, so for example, if you're doing like, you're learning about bald eagles, then some of that you might just be able to do at a simple glance, but then you can also kind of cross-check using AI. Like you can take the slide text and go put it in a chat GPT or a Bard or whatever and say, please fact check this. Is there anything that's incorrect? So that's another way that you can do it. But then the other thing is too, like as you're doing it, if you're like, I just don't know, and it's going to take too much time to check, just change it to something that you do know. Anything else, you guys? Okay, is everybody doing okay getting that that link that I put up with the QR code? Or do you want me to go back to that for just a second? Oh, and yeah, I'm not on X or Twitter or whatever that is. I'm not there. Thanks for looking though. Maybe I should be there, but I'm not. All right, cool. Let's keep moving. Next thing I'm going to talk about, and I don't know if we'll be able to get to all of these because like I said, I'm approaching this session as like everything I have learned during my time doing all of this. So let's go into life hacks for just a second. So there's one thing I kind of want to talk through, and that's prompting. So prompting for teachers, when you're using AI, prompting is a really big deal because the way that you understand how to prompt AI, it determines the quality of what you get out of AI. And it also determines how much legwork you have to put in after you've had something generated. So as an example, like say you put in like a vague prompt to get an email response, the email that it spits out, you might have to actually end up doing like 50% of the work instead of 20 because the response it gave you is not that great. Whereas if you get really good at prompting, you can really whittle it down to just adding that extra 20% at the end and eventually get your times way down. So I have an article that was recently published of mine with Microsoft. And here's the article name if you want to like read it all. But basically, this is me kind of teaching how I would use ChatGPT to prompt. And I put in some like exact prompts for exactly what I would do. So I'm going to walk you through the process that I would follow if I was generating a new unit idea strictly using AI. So here's what I would do. First, I would go to ChatGPT and I would type in, brainstorm a list of unit ideas for first grade social studies or whatever, right? This is also a great place to say, please make sure to cover these standards and paste in the standards that you want it to cover. Okay, so ChatGPT is going to say something like this. Okay, sure. Here's a list of unit ideas that would be suitable. And I'll give you a list of unit ideas. So then you're going to look and you're going to be like, okay, well, which one do I want to do? Then pick one of them or literally say to it, I don't like these, and then tell it why you don't like it, and then say, to give me another that does this better. So you keep coming back to it, right? Like act like you're giving it feedback, but feel free to be mean and picky and because you're teaching it what you want. And so then you pick one. So let's say, okay, I really like this my community unit and I want to run with it. So then you could say, generate an entire unit based on my community for first graders. And it's going to say, okay, here we go. So then it's going to generate this unit. Here's a unit title. This is just a screenshot. So like if you're actually in the article and you want to go read it, you could click here to see like all the results that it gives you. Okay. And so then it tells you like the duration and the objective, and then it breaks it into weeks. All right, great. So then let's say we want to run with this. And now we're like getting into the planning process. So then maybe you would say next, well, what materials would I need for week 1? It'll say, okay, here's what you need. And it'll break it down. If you follow the lesson plan that it gave you, you would need these things. On day 1, you'd need this. On day 2, you'd need this. So then you could make yourself a little list. Again, you can probably see the legwork this takes out for you and the brain work, the brain power, not having to use your brain to sit there and go, well, I need markers. Well, I need paper. That's done for you. Okay, so then you've picked it. That's what you want to do. Well, let's just say though that like you picked this in isolation because you just went to this conference and you just wanted to like try this out. But then you're like, yeah, but I really don't want to do it by myself. I want to involve my team. You could say, write an email pitching this unit to my fellow first grade teachers. And then it's going to do this. And then because ChatGPT is generative AI, it's going to be weirdly formal and you're going to be like, this is strange. So then you would go in and you would add your voice and you could always say to it, make this more familiar, but it's still going to sound weird because it's not you. It's not a human. So then you would add it like, to your friends on your team and then send that to your team if you would like to. And then you can go on and on. You could say, okay, now write a version of this for parents, explaining this unit to parents, or write an email to the art teacher asking her if she would like to contribute to this, right? It goes on and on. And then this kind of talks more in this about prompting, but I just wanted to give you a little walkthrough of why learning how to prompt is so important, because as you get better and better at it, you get better output because you get better at input. Okay, some self-care tools. This is not connected to AI, but they are connected to tech. And I just want to say these because I think as a teacher, I would have liked this if I had known it. Number one, the first thing I want to say, in my school, we have microphones in every single classroom and we wear them like around our necks on little lanyards and everybody's just projected all the time. If you don't have a microphone, can I please, please, please encourage you that if you are ever like feeling strained or tired or anything, just get a microphone. And here's why. I used to teach music. I had no voice ever. And I would come home and my voice would hurt and I couldn't sing at concerts and blah, 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 because I was like always yelling all the time. Like I'm yelling right now, to be honest. And because I'd get passionate, I would yell. And it's not just if you're losing your voice, it's also as you're talking over the kids, you're expending a lot of energy. And I'm talking about teacher well-being, right? So I want to tell you, you're wearing a microphone. You can talk at this level and you can say, boys and girls, I'd like you to line up, please. And they can hear you and they can also hear that your tone is calm. So it can really change the classroom dynamic because everything can get really peaceful because you're not having to project. And so the timbre and the tone of your voice is peaceful. Now, if you don't have a sound system hooked up in your classroom, there's an Amazon version. You can get on Amazon and just like search this and just put like personal microphone or like over the ear mic. So I literally did this, and I know you're gonna like laugh at me probably, but it was worth it. I had a little Britney mic that I wore every day, and I would like have the mic pack on my body. It was battery powered, so it was like not connected to nothing. And my little mic pack and my little Britney mic, and I would teach every single day, and it enhanced my well-being as a teacher. So I know that connects to nothing, but I just want to say that. Okay, night shift redux is it is an extension. And so what it does is it shifts you can have it or your students can have it depending on your comfort with that. And so what it does is it shifts the colors on your screen to emit less blue lights that kind of like affect our mental health and our sleep quality, because so many of us are having to look at screens all day long, and that like comes from our devices, obviously, like that lack of sleep. And then there's a lot of study now about like the mental health effects of having so much blue light in our life. And so night shift redux can help you with that by changing the tone colors of your screen. And you can set like a schedule, like you only want it to start doing that at like 4 p.m. or whatever. The other thing about that, and I don't know if you've ever used this in your personal life, but like if you change your phone to grayscale, it has less of a dopamine hit when you look at it. So it's less addicting. And so this kind of does the same thing. If you were to pull up your like school email at night and it has the night shift redux on it, it gives you less of that dopamine hit and would maybe help with that work-life balance. Brain FM is a great one to be running in your classroom because these are scientifically studied sounds that help with productivity of students. And so this is one that you can run in the background for yourself during planning period or while students are learning. It's very soothing and it helps with focus. So another executive functioning type of back pocket tool. The free version is great, and there's a paid version too, but the free version is fine. And then Noisely is the only other one. The Noisely extension is really great because it provides background noise that is like soothing. So you could put it, and it also provides like any type of background noise for yourself or for students. If you were to need it, it's right available in an extension. So a couple self-care teacher tips. And here are a couple classroom tips. There are a couple more that I think are good, like just to promote that sense of well-being and peace in your classroom. One is Miss My Cafe. It's an extension. And during COVID, when we were like not able to go to coffee shops, if you are like me and you just love the vibe of working in a coffee shop or like the background sounds, like if you ever do like silent reading in your classroom or something like that, this is an extension and it's very aesthetic and pretty also that allows you to like play cafe sounds in the background. I do, and you can sign up for this on my social media accounts if you want. There's like a link if you go to my TikTok or my Instagram, there's a link in bio. And then in the link in bio, there's a get my freebies section. If you click on that, there's a freebie in there that's a Starbucks board, and it has these like pretty little Starbucks things on it and has like some choice board elements. This would be something that would pair well with that. ASMR rooms are another good one. I think we all know about those from YouTube. If you don't know about those, please check those out. They're amazing. Disney Plus also has some ambiances that are really beautiful, especially if you're like a little bit of a Disney person, which I definitely am. And then I have several Spotify playlists, and so do many other people, but you can get mine just by searching Emily Karst on Spotify. And they are specifically created for teachers and kind of fit the vibe of spring, or like I have lots for fall and Christmas and summer and all the things that are school appropriate for your classroom. And any of these just help to set a vibe that not only is uplifting for students and helps students just to kind of center and be calm, but it's better for you because during your school day, like your nervous system can just decompress because you're looking at pretty things and you're hearing pretty sounds and you're just able to ground yourself a little bit better. Okay, that's my life hacks section. Let's check out. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Prezi is so fun when it works, but then I'm always like, wait, what? Okay, let's go back to the main one. Okay, let's talk tech tools next. Here are my top 6 tech tools. I'm going to run through these because I think we all know about them, but in case we don't, Kahoot is awesome. And there's a great library of Kahoot quizzes that are already like pre-generated for you. Pear Deck is still awesome. I feel like people don't use Pear Deck as much anymore, but it's a great extension and really good for just engaging your kids. Edpuzzle is one that has an okay free version, but it's a lot better if you have it paid, but a really good along the way, like you can ask questions that have to do with the video. And there are some AI generative tools. I'm going to have to try to think about it. Place it in the chat if you guys know what it is. But there is a generative AI tool. Dang, I wish I could remember it. That will do this for you. Like you can put a YouTube link in and it will create questions based on the YouTube link. I'm going to keep thinking about what one that is. It might be Questionwell might have this functionality. Anyway, then you can add those into an Edpuzzle if you wanted to. And what it does is it plays the video for the kids and then it pauses the video and the kids can't go on until they answer the question. Blooket and GameKit are highly gamified. It's like Kahoot, but just even more gamified for kids. It can get a little wild, but elementary kids love it. Boom cards are great for my pre-K2 friends on here. They're accessible even for kindergartners. And if you're one-to-one on any kind of a tablet, these are great. And there's tons in the free library that you could check out. It's a tech tool. I have a couple too, but they're really like, they're like task cards, but they're very, I have a 3-year-old. So they're kind of at that level where they're just very accessible for young kids and you can search up anything, kind of like a teachers pay teachers type of a thing. Then Jamboard, I know it's going away if it's not already gone, which is such a bummer, but there's one, there's something else that's replacing it, like not Flipgrid, another one. I don't know. I'll think about that one too. That replaces this, but for the meantime, for the right now, Jamboard is still really fun and a great way to engage kids on an interactive whiteboard. Oh, I remembered. It's Canva. Canva has interactive whiteboards now. So if you go get your Canva Pro account, which I hope everybody has because you're all educators, so you should all have a Canva Pro account because it's amazing. You can actually have a shared whiteboard space on Canva now. And so even like if you had Jamboards in the past, you can screenshot that background and plop it into Canva and still use them there. Okay, I wanted to at least talk about those in case any of those were new. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. It was Twee. Good job, whoever remembered that. Lacey, you're so smart. Good job. And it's Fig Jam. Oh my gosh, you guys are so smart. Good work. Everybody's throwing this in the chat right now. And you guys are so good. So make sure if you're not looking at the chat, go look at it because everybody's putting in exactly what I was thinking. I feel like we're sharing a brain. Great job, everybody. And I'm really feeling with George's wife, who literally has no voice. Yeah, that was me for years. I'm telling you, buy her an Amazon mic. She will thank you. Okay. Oh, and Laura, thank you. Laura says Lucid allows you to import your old Jamboards. That's so interesting. All right. Whoops. Back we go. Oh my gosh. Okay, Google Slides. Google Slides was like my OG thing. This was the thing that I got started talking about before I got started talking about anything else. And Google Slides is just still a ride or die. We all love Google Slides. We're all using it. So here's a couple of add-ons that I think are good for Google Slides, and I am going to show you one here in just a second. So Slides Toolbox is a great one. It just has a bunch of different tools that make it easier for you to edit Google Slides quickly. I don't have this on here, but it's just good to know. These days, I pretty much create all my Google Slides in Canva because you can attach or you can connect your Google Drive to Canva. And then you can export anything you make into Canva into Google Drive and then into Google Slides, which I think is awesome. So I pretty much exclusively do that now. And again, that's like a Canva Pro add-on, so please make sure you have that. Pear Deck is still awesome. Paletti is awesome because it is it's a color scheme, color palette extension that like will color code your slides. So if you have like a presentation you want to change the color scheme of, Paletti is great for that. Unsplash Images is still the best of the best when it comes to really beautiful images that you can get quickly. And there is an add-on for Google Slides for that, which will make your life a lot easier. Trust me. Magic Rainbow is great for if you are editing text in Google Slides. Magic Rainbow will change the color scheme of the text for you, which is really fun. Magic Rainbow Unicorns, it all goes together. Then icons for slides is another one that I want to show you like in action, and Slides AI also. So Slides AI is a newer one. I actually used to create content for them, which was super cool. And they are a generative AI tool that is in Google Slides. So if you go to like, let me show you. Let me just show you. You go up here and you type in slides.new. Hopefully we all know this. We'll get a brand new slide. There it is. So when you get here, to get an add-on, you're going to go to tools. No, you're not. You're going to go to extensions. Extensions is right here. Then add-ons, then get add-ons. And then you can search for any of the add-ons that I just said. And there's quite a few more, I am sure. So here's where you would add Pear Deck, for example. The one I just told you about is called Slides AI. And oh, I'm sorry, slidesai.io. So this is what it looks like right here. You can add that and it does the same thing that you just watched Gamma do, where you type in what you want the presentation to be about, but instead of generating it like in the Gamma piece, which is totally cool, fine, it generates it in Google Slides. So like do you one better basically. The one I want you to see in action real quick is this one, extensions, icons for slides and docs. Push start. If you are ever making a Google Slides presentation and you need a movable icon, I have this happen all the time. You would come here and you would search for anything. Like the other day, I searched for ice cream. But there are so many icons. So like, let's look for sharks. So you would tap on one, it comes up, you insert it, it goes in as a PNG. So it's a movable icon. See what I mean? So then that way, if you're ever making any of those kinds of presentations where you're like having kids drag and drop as a part of the game, or like maybe you've made like an agenda slide. I have several freebies you could grab of this, where like you're having the kids like move their icon to like, oh, I'm buying or oh, I'm packing, whatever. This is something that you could use for that. Okay, let's keep on going. URL hacks. I feel like we all used to talk about this all the time, but sometimes we forget. When you're ready to share a Google document of any way, shape, or form, you can just change the after the backslash to share whatever formulation of document it is that you want. So for example, if you only want to share a preview, and a preview of a document is where no one can edit it, and it kind of just gives it to them almost in present form. So it like takes up the whole screen. There's no editing. So if you say you wanted to give it to them in a preview, you would go to the URL of the doc, which you can see right here. And then after the final backslash, you delete everything that came before the final backslash, which is probably just the word edit. And then you would put in the word preview, share that link, and it's what you want. Or if in your day-to-day life, you're constantly like worried about like, oh gosh, I have to share that. I need to make sure I share this as a copy, or like, I need to make sure this is not editable. You can do that here. Take back everything after the backslash, usually just the word edit, and put in just the word copy. And then that will generate a copy for your students. This is just a life hack for teachers everybody should know about. All right. Last one for Google Slides are just some ideas. These are some things that I have found in my classroom that are really fun and engaging for kids. And the reason I'm talking about them in a well-being presentation is because when you are making something that sounds fun to you, you're having fun, your kids are having more fun, you like your job more, and you're less burnout because you're enjoying yourself. And I know I felt more revitalized in my career when I started getting intellectually interested in what I was making, or when I developed a sense of fun around what I was making and was like enjoying the process of doing it. So you can create virtual libraries, virtual field trips, virtual classrooms, clickable games. You can repurpose your worksheets. Like just as an example, like say you want to use Canva, you would take so pull up like an old PDF worksheet that you had before that you've been using for years, screenshot it, or there's lots of other ways you can do it, but I would just screenshot it, then put it into either Canva or Google Slides. And if you're in Google Slides, set it as the background. So you'll click on, I'm going to show you where that is. You will click on, well, there it is, background, change background, click right there, choose image, put in the screenshot of it, and then the screenshot of your worksheet would be in the background of your slide, so it's not movable. And then you could add like little text boxes and things over top of the worksheet. And as an example, just as like a fun fact, this is just a fun Google Slides tip. If you add like a second slide like this, what I usually do when I'm doing this is I highlight this box and I change the size like this so that it says click to add text. And then I would take it and I would paste it over top of like that, the box that I wanted. So like if this were a worksheet and kids had their name right here, I would have that click to add text right there so that they could just click and add their name. So they're not adding their own text boxes, if that makes sense. So you add it over the PNG JPEG of the actual activity, and then you have the boxes over top that they can add it in. And so then instead of collecting the worksheet at a paper copy, because sometimes we just have to use a worksheet and it's okay, you can get it in a Google Slide and kids can do it on their devices if you would like. Just a fun fact. All right. Oh, and interactive notebooks are also a great way to use Google Slides or like portfolios that kids use over time. Okay, we are getting toward the end. The last thing I want to talk about today is extensions. I've got a couple of favorite extensions and then I'll answer some questions, okay? There are 6 extensions that I really love and continue to use all the time. First one is full screen interactive. When we're talking about Google or Google Slides presentations, and I was talking about drag and drop activities earlier, the one thing that's really annoying about that, maybe you guys remember this, is that you cannot drag and drop an item while the slide is in present mode. So the workaround for that is you get an extension called full screen interactive, and it will put the presentation in present mode and still allow you to move the movable icons around. It's just like a really great life tip for if you're like obsessed with the aesthetics like I am. Cute cursors is one that I've used for a long, long time. It's just a really fun way if you're like presenting virtually, or like if you were back at your computer and you're showing the kids on the screen, like go here, do this. It can be hard to follow my little black cursor right now, but if it's like a fun, engaging cursor, then the kids can follow a little better. My favorite extension for that is cute cursors. Insert learning, I'm going to show you really quickly. This is an extension called Insert Learning. It's so cool. It's totally free. So you go over any kind of a passage, and then as you can see right here on the side, it's kind of demoing it for you. You can tap add a question or create a question, and then you can ask the question in the middle of the text. So kind of a similar concept to when we were talking about Ed Puzzle and how it does that for YouTube videos. This extension does the exact same thing, except for reading and using an article that's online. So this is really fun. It also allows you to comment things, or there's like a little sticky extension, right? Like a little sticky note thing where you could just add your little teacher commentary along the way, which is pretty cool. And again, it's totally free to use. And I think most people don't talk about this one for some reason, but Insert Learning is a really good one. I definitely would encourage you to check it out. And I think it's a really good extension. Let's see. Then Sirlinks is a lot like what I was just talking about with those URL hacks, but instead of having to remember them, you can get it as an extension, and you can just go up, click the extension, and it'll say like, what do you want? What kind of URL do you want to share or present and edit or whatever? You'll tell it, and then it will automatically copy that to your clipboard. So just an easier way to kind of streamline that process. And then the last one is Crafty Level. There's another extension that does this in a similar way, and it's called Brisk, except for Brisk is an extension to Google Docs, which I don't know if you've ever seen Brisk, but it does a lot of really cool things. It has an AI detector, just not that good because no AI detectors are that good, but it's okay. And it's at least a good like initial look. Brisk also has this really cool feature. And I didn't put it in the presentation because I just found it a second ago, but I do think you'd like this. Where you can see how many clicks it took to add content. So hear me out on this. If you are teaching secondary kids or even like 5th graders, then you'll get something and you're like, oh my gosh, I just know this was copy and pasted from ChatGPT or whatever, but I can't prove it, and AI like detectors are bad. So what this extension to Google Docs does is you can ask it how many like edits did this paper have and see a history, and it will play like a recorded version of you of what your students did in the doc. So it will show you like, well, the only thing that happened in this doc is it was a blank doc, and then it was pasted all this text, and then you've got what you need. Like you're like, hey, you pasted this whole text from a different source. Like, what's up? Or it'll show you like, it was written and there was like 100 million edits because they wrote every single character and they typed it out, or it'll show you any in the middle. So to me, that's like actually the best AI detector tool I've ever come across. Again, it's called Brisk. The other thing Brisk does is the same thing as Crafty Level, where it changes leveled text. And another thing it does too. Oh, and it generates too. Like it'll write you question sets. It'll write you lesson plans. Brisk is a really good one to check out. It does have like I think you can do like 10 things with it and then you have to pay or something like that. But I know my district is looking into a district license for it because of my teachers like it so much. So something to check out. Okay. I think that's it as far as extensions. And you guys, I believe that is the end of my presentation. So let me stop screen sharing. Stop share. And we'll all chit chat for a minute and we'll look at the chat. Okay, first of all, thank you so much for being here and listening to me. I know this is like a lot of talking on my end, and I threw a ton of resources and information at you. So hopefully you're able to get that guide, and then anything else you want to know about, feel free to ask it. We do have about 8 minutes, so I will scroll through the chat here real quick and see what I can answer for you. Let's see. Yeah. So somebody said the Brisk extension walks you through a video of the work edit history. Yep, it's really cool. It's worth checking out. Can you explain more what you said about how to take Google Slides you already have to Canva and then back? Does this keep or allow things to be interactive again, even if made in Canva? What a good question. Okay. So when something is made in Canva, no, everything comes over as a JPEG, essentially. Like it's all just the slide. That's all there is. You can't really edit almost anything once you go over to Google Slides. So if you want to have anything that's interactive in nature, my process is I have it done in Canva, and I can pop over to Canva and show you a couple of things if you want. Feel free to say like, yes, I want that in the chat if you want. Because as you'll see from my social media, I'm talking a lot about Canva these days. Anyway, so I will allow it to make like the aesthetics and some of the text elements that I know I don't want to move, and also be able to use like the really fun fonts that are in Canva. Then I'll move it over to Google Slides. Once I have it in Google Slides, then I'll launch that icon extension that I showed you, and I'll start dragging and dropping those icons onto the Google slide from there so that it remains interactive. Hopefully that's helpful. Best Canva hacks, absolutely. Yes, and I did share the slides. I think there's like an administrator in here who should be able to answer this question. But I did share the slides of this presentation, so hopefully you can like have them all. Almost everything is linked in the presentation, so you can click on it from there. And as far as a microphone that I recommend, all I did was I searched portable battery-powered microphone on Amazon. And I think the one I bought was, I mean, take this with a grain of salt, it was in 2020, so I think it was like $35 or something like that. So it's probably like $1 million now, but I don't know. Check it out. It's easy to find. I'm so glad this was helpful. Thanks. That was really nice. Okay, cool. Okay, let me pop over to Canva and show you one quick hack if you still have time, and then we'll wrap it up, okay? And still feel free to like drop questions in if you would like, okay? Okay, Canva. Canva is the love of my life at this moment because I just think it's just doing a really good job. So, you know, earlier I talked, oh, wait a minute, hold on a minute. I'm not sharing my screen, am I? All right, there you go. Hopefully you can see this now. Let me see your faces for a minute. Thumbs up that you can see this. Thanks. All right, so let's get back to here and Canva. So I think I said this just a second ago, but if you want that whiteboard functionality that replaces Jamboard, this is it right here on the Canva Pro account. So something I want to show you. So let's like scroll down to something that I made. This is like a peek in my personal life. This is a baby shower header that I made. So check this out. This is my favorite Canva hack. And I have a video that's went super duper viral around this. So you go to elements, okay? Tap elements. And then right here, tap color palette. You're gonna get a ton of color palettes. So then you choose one that you like. This is the way that you're going to change the aesthetics of the entire thing at once. So let's say that we like this color palette. So I'm going to drag and drop it onto the presentation, and then I'm going to right click it. Now here's the thing, as I'm showing you this, because I haven't prepped it, it's probably going to like not be the right one. Hold on a minute. Okay, so some of them work and some of them don't. So that's a good way to show you that. So that one didn't work. So let's try this one. All right, so what this does, and I'm not sure why the two I just picked aren't working, is you click on this and you right click it and you'll see an option that says apply colors to whole page. And all of these color palette colors will pop onto this page and it'll change the color all at once. It's my favorite hack and I use it all the time, but it does take a couple different tries to find a color palette that, oh, there it is. Okay, so this one will work. So you pick one you like, go over here, apply colors to page, and then watch this. Did you see that? Isn't that so cool? And it changes the entire aesthetic of the Canva board at once. It's pretty stinking cool. Saves you a lot of time. All right, so you guys, I think that's pretty much it, plus a bonus Canva tip. I would love for you to follow me and I would love for you to connect with me. If, oh my gosh, I'm glad your mind is blown. I'm glad it's awesome. You guys, I thrive on positive praise, so just keep it coming. If you would like to follow me on social media, please do. If you want to reach out to me there, please do. I love teachers. Teachers are my favorite human beings in the whole wide world. I love talking to teachers and I love finding ways to make your life easier. Hope this was helpful to you. It's really fun to talk to you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you guys so much.